What if human consciousness isn't just one singular monolithic state of being? What if it is, in fact, an unfolding ladder? A sequence of energetic levels, a graduated ascent through the very architecture of reality itself. Consider the possibility that your awareness, your very sense of self, is not a fixed point, but a dynamic position on a vast vertical spectrum. Each tier, each rung on this cosmic ladder doesn't just offer a new perspective, it fundamentally unlocks more awareness, a deeper well of presence, and a more profound, subtle influence on the collective consciousness that binds us all together. It's a journey from reacting to the world to co-creating it. This isn't merely a philosophical thought experiment, a quaint parlor game for the existentially curious. This is a practical framework, a hidden cartography of human awakening that has been whispered about in mystery schools and hinted at in ancient texts for millennia. Now we bring it into the light, examining it through a modern lens that blends the empirical with the esoteric, the neural with the numinous. We are not just discussing ideas, we are mapping the territory of your own potential evolution, the dormant capabilities lying within the delicate, intricate latticework of your own nervous system and energetic field. Today we embark on an exploration into this hidden framework of human awakening, the 5 tiers of awareness. We will dissect each level, from the foundational state of survival that governs the vast majority of human experience, to the transcendent planes of creator consciousness, where the veils between self and other begin to dissolve into a shimmering unity. This is not about judgment or hierarchy in the traditional sense, but about understanding the mechanics of your own inner world, so you might navigate it with greater skill, grace, and intention. Prepare to see yourself not as you are, but as you could be. So silence your notifications, quiet the relentless chatter of the external world, and grant yourself this moment of profound introspection. The journey we are about to undertake is an internal one, a descent into the core of your being to discover the ascent that awaits. We will move beyond theory and into the tangible, felt sense of each state of awareness. We will provide the map, but you and only you can walk the path. The first step is simply to be open to the possibility that there is more to you than you have ever been told. Let's dive in. We begin at the foundation, the bedrock upon which all other states are built. Tier 1 is where most of humanity resides, often unconsciously, caught in the relentless currents of survival mode. Here, awareness is not an expansive ocean, but a narrow, focused beam of a searchlight, perpetually scanning the horizon for threats. It is a state governed by the primal reptilian brain, a necessary and brilliant evolutionary adaptation designed for one purpose: to keep you alive. Safety is the prime directive, the unquestioned monarch of this internal kingdom, and its edicts are absolute. In this realm, your nervous system runs primarily on the potent, jittery fuel of cortisol and adrenaline. It is a biological state of low-grade, constant vigilance, a hum of anxiety just beneath the surface of conscious thought. The brain, in its infinite efficiency, prioritizes habitual thinking, creating well-worn neural pathways that become deep ruts. Reactions are not chosen. They are triggered, automatic reflexes fired off by a system that perceives danger around every corner. Your energy is not your own. It is perpetually outsourced, entangled with the desperate need for external validation and the primal fear of ostracization. This state is not inherently wrong or bad. Let us be clear on that. It is a crucial phase of development, particularly in early life, when we are utterly dependent on our caregivers for safety, nourishment, and a sense of belonging. The problem does not lie in its existence, but in our inability to graduate from it. To remain tethered to Tier 1 as an adult is to live within a self-imposed prison, where the walls are built from the fear of judgment and the bars are forged from the need for approval. It is to remain a child in a grown-up's world, constantly seeking permission to exist. The defining characteristic of this tier is scarcity, a scarcity of love, a scarcity of resources, a scarcity of safety, a scarcity of time. This perception of not enough colors every decision, every interaction, every thought. You see the world not as a field of infinite possibility, but as a competitive arena where you must fight for your share. Your energy becomes ensnared in these repeating fear loops, a feedback cycle where the belief in scarcity creates behaviors that inevitably prove the belief to be true. This is the hamster wheel of modern existence, and most don't even know they are on it. Sad, Within the confines of survival awareness, your sense of self is profoundly externalized. Your identity is not an internal anchor, but a fragile mosaic, pieced together from the opinions, expectations, and reflections of others. You are who your boss thinks you are, who your partner thinks you are, who your social media followers think you are. This creates a desperate and exhausting performance, a constant act of shape-shifting to fit into the perceived molds of acceptance. The core question here is not who am I, but rather who do you need me to be so that I can be safe? This external locus of control means you feel perpetually at the mercy of outside forces. The traffic, the economy, your colleagues' mood, the political climate. These are not merely external events, they are personal affronts that dictate your internal state. You are a ship without a rudder, tossed about on the stormy seas of circumstance. This creates a pervasive sense of victimhood, a narrative in which life is something that happens to you rather than something that flows through you. Responsibility is a hot potato, quickly passed to anyone or anything else to avoid the discomfort of self-ownership. Here, the brain's confirmation bias works overtime, diligently filtering reality to reinforce pre-existing beliefs of threat and limitation. If you believe the world is a hostile place, your reticular activating system will meticulously point out every piece of evidence that supports this conclusion, while conveniently ignoring all data to the contrary. This isn't a conscious process, it is an automated, deeply ingrained survival mechanism. It keeps you locked in your patterns, defending your own limitations as if they were precious treasures, because the known discomfort of the cage feels safer than the unknown freedom beyond it. Energy in Tier 1 is therefore a commodity to be hoarded and protected, yet it constantly leaks away through worry, complaint, and gossip. These are the pressure release valves for a system overloaded with fear. Complaining about the government or gossiping about a neighbor provides a momentary hit of connection and validation, a fleeting sense of shared reality in a frightening world, but it is a fool's bargain. It reinforces the very energetic patterns of helplessness and separation that define this tier, keeping you firmly entangled in the drama triangle of victim, persecutor, and rescuer. The ego structure in Tier 1 is, well, rigid and defensive. It's like a fortress, built brick by brick from every past hurt, every perceived failure, every moment of shame. Its primary function, really, is to protect the fragile, unhealed inner child from any further harm. And it accomplishes this through a suite of predictable strategies: judgment, comparison, righteousness, and blame. By judging others, the ego creates a false sense of superiority. By comparing, it seeks to measure its worth. By clinging to righteousness, it validates its own worldview, creating a bulwark against the terrifying possibility of being wrong. This truly is the echo chamber of the mind. Your thoughts are not your own original creations. They are largely recycled, inherited from your family, your culture, and your past experiences. You think the same thoughts today that you thought yesterday, and you will likely think them again tomorrow. This mental loop is hypnotic, lulling you into a trance of familiarity. It is the autopilot of the psyche, designed to conserve energy by avoiding the strenuous work of original thought or deep self-inquiry. The voice in your head is not a guide, it is a warden, patrolling the perimeter of your comfort zone. In this state, vulnerability is perceived as a fatal weakness. To be open, to be soft, to be uncertain. These are invitations for attack in the survival-oriented worldview. Therefore, emotional expression is either suppressed until it explodes, or it is weaponized. Anger is used to create distance, sadness is hidden away for fear of being a burden, and joy is tempered with the expectation that it won't last. The full spectrum of human emotion is compressed into a narrow band of socially acceptable or defensively useful feelings, leaving one feeling emotionally numb or chronically agitated. Ultimately, remaining in Tier 1 is to live a life half-lived. It is to mistake the menu for the meal, the map for the territory. It is to believe that the conditioned, reactive, fear-based persona you present to the world is the totality of who you are. The tragedy is not the existence of this tier, but the cultural hypnosis that convinces us there is nothing beyond it. But for some, a crack appears in the fortress wall. A moment of crisis, a sudden loss, or a persistent, quiet whisper from within begins to ask, is this all there is? That question is the key that unlocks the door to Tier 2. Tier 2 introduces a profound, game-changing shift in the landscape of consciousness. It marks the emergence of the observer, or what is sometimes called the witness. This is the part of you that can watch your own mind in action. For the first time, you are not completely fused with your thoughts and emotions. A sliver of space appears. You can have a thought of anger, for instance, and simultaneously be aware that you are having a thought of anger. This is the dawn of metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. It is the beginning of pulling your awareness out of the churning river of unconscious reaction and onto the riverbank. This awakening of the observer is often catalyzed by a disruption. It could be a period of intense personal development, stumbling upon mindfulness or meditation, or the painful but potent process of trauma recovery. These experiences force a schism in the psyche, breaking the hypnotic spell of Tier 1. You begin to see the bars of your own cage. You start to recognize the predictable loops of your anxiety, the familiar script of your anger, the knee-jerk nature of your defensiveness. You are not yet free from them, but for the first time you can see them for what they are, patterns, not truths. The initial experience of the observer can be disorienting, even disconcerting. You start to question narratives you once held as gospel. Why do I always react that way when my boss criticizes me? Why do I seek validation from people I don't even respect? Is this belief truly mine, or did I inherit it? This internal interrogation is the hallmark of Tier 2. It is the act of turning the searchlight of awareness, which was once pointed exclusively outward in search of threats, back upon the inner workings of your own mind. You become a detective in the mystery of your own psyche. This is the fundamental act of pulling your awareness out of autopilot. Imagine you've been driving a car your whole life, believing you were the car itself. Suddenly you realize you are the driver, and you can see the dashboard, the steering wheel, the pedals. You may not know how to drive skillfully yet. You might still slam on the brakes or swerve erratically, but the crucial distinction has been made. You are not the vehicle. You are the consciousness operating it. This single realization is the seed from which all further growth and mastery will eventually blossom. Life in Tier 2 is often characterized by a pendulum swing. You experience moments of sublime clarity, of detached observation, where you can watch your emotional storms pass by like weather in the sky. In these moments, you feel a sense of empowerment and freedom. You see a trigger coming. You recognize the old pattern beginning to activate, and you consciously choose a different response. It is a taste of true inner liberty, a glimpse of the peace that lies beyond the chaos of the reactive mind. You feel for a moment like you are finally in control, but then, inevitably, the pendulum swings back. A significant life stressor, a deep-seated trigger, or simple fatigue can cause the observer to collapse. In an instant, you are yanked from the riverbank and thrown back into the turbulent waters of Tier 1. You become completely identified with your reaction once more. The anger is not a thought you are observing, it is you. The fear is not a sensation in your body, it is your reality. In the aftermath, a new layer of suffering often emerges, the guilt and self-judgment for having failed or regressed. This oscillation between Tier 1 and Tier 2 is a critical and entirely normal phase of the journey. It is a process of spiritual muscle building. Each time you successfully hold the seat of the observer, the neural pathways for self-awareness are strengthened. Each time you fall back into reaction, you're given a fresh opportunity to study the mechanics of that pattern upon your return to clarity. The goal is not to never fall back, but to shorten the duration of the fall and to quicken the return to the witness perspective. It is a dance of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Embodiment has not yet stabilized in this tier. Awareness is primarily a mental concept, an intellectual understanding rather than a fully integrated, felt sense. You know you are not your thoughts, but you don't always feel it in your bones, in your gut, in the very cells of your body. This is why it's so easy to be pulled back into the fray. The intellectual insight of the observer is like a sapling, while the deep instinctual conditioning of Tier 1 is like an ancient, deep-rooted oak. The process of Tier 2 is the slow, patient nurturing of that sapling until its own roots can hold firm. The primary work of Tier 2 is really the consistent practice of separation, creating space between stimulus and response. This is where tools like mindfulness meditation, journaling, and breathwork become invaluable allies, not just as relaxation techniques, but as training grounds for the observer. Each time you sit and intentionally watch your breath, you are exercising the muscle of non-reactive awareness. Each time a thought arises and you label it thinking without getting swept away, you are reinforcing the distinction between the awareness and the object of awareness. You begin to depersonalize your patterns. Instead of saying I'm an anxious person, you learn to say I am noticing the sensation of anxiety appearing in my body. This subtle shift in language is, honestly, profoundly powerful. It reframes the experience from a fixed identity to a transient event. You are the sky, and the anxiety is a cloud passing through. This act of objective naming detaches the emotional hook of the pattern, robbing it of its power to define you. You are no longer the storm, you are the vast, silent space in which the storm is happening. This stage also involves a courageous inventory of your own triggers. A trigger is simply an unhealed part of you that gets activated by an external event. In Tier 1, you blame the event. He made me angry. In Tier 2, you begin to take ownership. When he said that, it activated a feeling of not being good enough inside of me. This is a monumental leap in personal responsibility. It shifts the focus from trying to control the uncontrollable outer world to healing the controllable inner world. You realize that your triggers are your greatest teachers, pointing like signposts to the exact locations of your unhealed wounds. However, the trap of Tier 2 is getting stuck in endless analysis. One can become a connoisseur of their own dysfunctions, able to articulate every childhood wound and psychological pattern with stunning precision, yet remain unable to truly transmute them. This is the intellectual bypass, where the observer becomes a tool for a more sophisticated ego, one that prides itself on its self-awareness without ever progressing to genuine emotional mastery. To move beyond this, one must graduate from simply observing the mind to actively engaging with the energy of the body. This is the gateway to Tier 3. We arrive now at the third tier, a significant departure from the familiar shores of the mind. Here, awareness transcends the mere observation of thoughts and plunges into the very medium in which they arise, energy. This is not some esoteric fantasy, but a palpable, tangible shift in perception. You begin to feel the world, not just think about it. The subtle currents that run beneath the surface of every interaction, every room you enter, every choice you make become as clear as the words on a page. It is the moment the two-dimensional map of your life suddenly renders itself in 3 dimensions, revealing the unseen forces that have been shaping your reality all along. This is the tier of the Alchemist, where you no longer simply watch your mind, you consciously engage with the very substance of your being, your energy field. You start to sense that emotions are not abstract psychological events, but quite literally, energy in motion. Emotion. A frustration is not just a thought, it is a spiky, contracted frequency buzzing in your solar plexus. Joy is not a mere concept, it is an expansive, radiant warmth that seems to emanate from your chest and fill the space around you. This is where the language of neuroscience and the vocabulary of ancient mysticism begin to beautifully, elegantly converge. The transition into this tier often feels like developing a new sense organ. Suddenly, the energetic weather of a room becomes apparent. You can feel the unresolved tension hanging in the air after an argument, even if everyone is smiling. You can sense the open-hearted resonance of a genuine connection, a feeling that goes far beyond body language or spoken words. It's a profound recognition that you are not merely a physical body navigating a physical world, but an energetic system in constant dynamic exchange with everything and everyone around you. The world is no longer a collection of separate objects, but a unified, vibrating field of information. And with this newfound sense, you realize a startling truth. You are not a passive victim of these energies. You are a participant, a conductor. You possess the innate ability to manage your own energetic state, to soothe the frantic buzzing of anxiety, to amplify the quiet hum of peace, to transform the leaden weight of sorrow into the golden light of understanding. This is not about suppression or denial. It is about conscious transmutation. It is the beginning of true sovereignty, the moment you pick up the orchestral baton of your own nervous system and begin to compose the symphony of your inner world. At this stage, the concept of a trigger undergoes a radical redefinition. In the lower tiers, a trigger is a landmine, an unconscious tripwire that detonates a predictable, often painful emotional and chemical cascade. It's a regression, a fall from grace back into the chaotic fray of survival. But here, in the third tier, a trigger becomes something else entirely. It becomes a signpost, an invitation. It is a focused point of energy that illuminates a corner of your inner world that is still tethered to an old story, an unhealed wound, a dissonant frequency that is ready to be resolved and integrated. You learn to meet these moments not with reaction but with presence. Instead of being hijacked by the surge of adrenaline and cortisol, you learn to hold it. You feel the heat rise in your chest, the clenching in your jaw, the frantic story spinning in your mind, and you stay with it. You breathe into it. You offer it your calm, non-judgmental awareness. This is the art of transmutation. You are not fighting the energy, you are metabolizing it. You are consciously providing the dissonant frequency with a new, more coherent pattern to harmonize with the pattern of your own centered presence. As your mastery of your own energy field deepens, a fascinating and humbling phenomenon occurs. Your presence begins to have a tangible, observable effect on your environment. This is not an act of will or a conscious projection of power. It is the simple, undeniable physics of resonance. Just as a tuning fork will cause a nearby string of the same frequency to vibrate, a coherent human nervous system has a calming, regulating effect on the less coherent nervous systems around it. You become a walking, talking source of stability, whether you intend to or not. You will notice it in subtle ways at first. An agitated colleague might seem to calm down just by standing near you. A tense meeting might find a path to resolution more easily when you are holding a state of inner neutrality. Animals and children who are exquisitely sensitive to energetic information may be inexplicably drawn to your quiet presence. This is not about being charismatic or persuasive in the traditional sense. It is about the subconscious influence of your biofield. Your regulated heart rate variability and calm brainwave patterns are being broadcast into the space around you, offering a silent invitation for others to attune to your state. This is the dawning of subtle leadership. You are no longer merely managing your own internal state for your own benefit. Your self-regulation becomes a form of service. You begin to understand that the most profound way to change the world is to first change your own inner world. By transmuting your own fear, you lessen the collective fear. By cultivating your own peace, you contribute to the collective peace. You become a node of coherence in an often chaotic network, and your presence alone helps to stabilize the entire system, one interaction at a time. This tier is a profound responsibility, but it is also a profound liberation. You are no longer at the mercy of the emotional weather patterns of others. You can stand in the midst of a storm of collective anxiety or anger and remain anchored in your own calm center. You can feel it, you can acknowledge it, you can even have compassion for it, but you are not swept away by it. You have moved from being a leaf tossed in the wind to becoming the deeply rooted tree, offering shelter and stability simply by being what you are. This is the power and the grace of emotional mastery. We now arrive at the fourth tier, a realm I like to call collective coherence. It is here that the journey turns decidedly outwards, though its foundation remains deeply internal. This is no longer merely about managing your own internal state, your own emotional weather patterns. Rather, it becomes about your very presence acting as a sort of energetic tuning fork for the world around you. You have cultivated such a profound sense of inner stability, such a wellspring of neutral, grounded energy, that you begin to unconsciously yet powerfully influence the ambient energetic field. It is the subtle art of becoming the calm in someone else's storm, not through words or actions, but through sheer being. This is the terrain of what one might term subtle leadership, a form of influence that operates beneath the radar of conscious awareness. You walk into a room thick with unspoken tension, a space where anxieties are ricocheting off the walls like invisible projectiles, and something within you simply settles it. The collective nervous system of the group senses your coherence, your lack of reactivity, and it unconsciously begins to mirror your state. It's a principle known in neuroscience as limbic resonance, but here it is elevated from a reactive mechanism to a conscious, albeit passive, tool for creating harmony. Your calm becomes contagious, a silent offering to those caught in the tempest of their own minds. It is crucial to understand that this is not about exerting control or manipulating others. Quite the opposite. It is a state of profound surrender to your own aligned frequency. The old frantic ego patterns, those ghosts of Tier 1 and 2, may still flicker at the edges of your awareness. A spark of irritation, a shadow of insecurity. They are not entirely vanquished, but they have lost their grip, their power to hijack your nervous system and pull you into the chaotic dance of reaction. They become like distant thunder, observed but not felt, their electrical charge failing to find purchase in your grounded circuitry. So you begin to navigate the complex tapestry of human interaction with a newfound, almost startling neutrality. You sense the powerful currents of attraction, the deep wells of unspoken emotion in others, the palpable tension of a collective holding its breath, yet you move through it all with a grace that is both detached and deeply compassionate. This isn't some cold, clinical God mode, as the gamers might say. It is a state of humble, potent influence, born not of ambition or a desire for power, but from the simple, unwavering commitment to your own internal alignment. It is influence as a byproduct of integrity. In this fourth tier, your perception of the world undergoes a radical shift. You begin to perceive the subtle energies that underpin all interactions, the invisible architecture of emotional and psychic space. It's as if a new sensory organ has come online, one that detects the frequency of a room, the energetic signature of a person, the underlying emotional tone of a conversation, long before a single word betrays it. You feel the energetic shape of a situation, sensing where there is flow and where there is resistance, where there is truth and where there is obfuscation. This is not guesswork, it is a direct felt sense. This heightened sensitivity could, in a less integrated state, be overwhelming. Indeed, for many empaths stuck in lower tiers, it is a source of immense suffering. But at Tier 4, this sensitivity is paired with an unshakable core of stability. You become a master navigator of these subtle realms. You can stand in the face of intense emotional projection, be it anger, desire, or neediness, without absorbing it, without becoming entangled in its drama. Your energy field acts as a semi-permeable membrane. You are aware of the external state, you can feel it, but you do not take it on as your own. It washes over you, not into you. This mastery allows for a far more effective and compassionate form of engagement, because you are not reacting to the surface-level behavior, you can perceive the deeper need beneath it. The angry outburst is no longer a personal attack, but a cry of pain. The manipulative tactic is not a threat, but a sign of profound insecurity. Your grounded neutrality gives you the space to respond to the source of the discord, not its symptom. You can offer a steady presence that allows the other person's nervous system the safety it needs to down-regulate, to find its own equilibrium, all without you having to say a word. Therefore, your interactions become less about the clumsy mechanics of language and more about energetic transmission. Your presence communicates safety, your silence communicates acceptance, your calm communicates possibility. You begin to understand that the most powerful thing you can do for another person is often nothing at all, simply to hold a space of unwavering, non-judgmental coherence. This is the paradox of Tier 4. Your greatest influence is born from your capacity for profound stillness, a silent testament to the power of a nervous system truly at peace. A fascinating aspect of ascending to Tier 4 is the way in which you relate to the collective. You develop a keen awareness of the mass consciousness fields, the pervasive anxieties, the shared belief systems, the cultural narratives that hold humanity in thrall. You can feel the pull of the collective fear around economic instability or the psychic weight of a global crisis. You perceive these not as abstract concepts, but as tangible energetic fields that exert a constant, subtle pressure on the individual psyche. It is a heavy, dense frequency that keeps much of humanity locked in Tier 1. But here, your relationship to that field changes. Previously, you might have been unconsciously swept up in it, your own anxieties amplified by the collective's. Now you stand apart, not in a state of superior separation, but as a conscious observer who can perceive the field without being defined by it. You achieve what we might call disidentification from the collective shadow. You can acknowledge its existence, you can have compassion for those caught within it, but you no longer allow its frequency to become your own. You are in the world, but not energetically of it. This capacity for disidentification is a profound act of service. By refusing to feed the collective fear with your own energy, you create a point of nullification, a tiny pocket of coherence within the broader field of discord. You become a lighthouse, The lighthouse doesn't fight the storm, it doesn't try to calm the waves, it simply stands anchored to its foundation and shines its light. In the same way, you anchor into your own truth, your own coherence, and your light, your stable, energetic signature, offers a point of reference for others navigating the darkness of the collective storm. This is not a passive state, but an active choice, renewed moment by moment. It requires vigilance to notice when the tendrils of collective panic or outrage try to hook into your own old patterns. It demands a commitment to return again and again to your own sovereign center. The reward for this discipline is a deep and abiding peace, a freedom that is not dependent on external circumstances. You realize that true safety does not come from controlling the world, but from mastering your response to it, becoming an unwavering anchor of sanity in a world that often seems to have lost its mind. And so, we arrive at the precipice of the known map, the fifth and for now, final tier creator consciousness. If Tier 4 was about stabilizing the environment through passive coherence, Tier 5 is about actively and intentionally transmuting it. Here the practitioner moves beyond being an anchor of calm and becomes a conscious agent of transformation. This is the domain where the lines between inner and outer reality become profoundly, almost impossibly thin. You begin to grasp, in a deeply embodied way, the mystical principle that your inner state doesn't just influence reality, it actively constitutes it. At this level, you are no longer just managing your energy, you are wielding it with purpose. You become a conscious transmuter of energetic density. This means you can enter a space heavy with stagnant negative energy, the residue of conflict, grief, or fear, and through the power of your embodied intention and coherent field, you can actively shift it. It is an act of spiritual alchemy, absorbing the leaden weight of discord and transmuting it within your own being into the gold of coherence, peace, and possibility. This is not a metaphor, it is a felt, tangible process. This process requires an extraordinary degree of mastery and an immense capacity to hold a high-frequency state. You are not merely deflecting negative energy, as in Tier 4. You are inviting it in, allowing it to enter the crucible of your own highly refined consciousness and transforming it. It is the ultimate act of energetic recycling. You absorb the density that would overwhelm a less integrated system, and you radiate back a frequency of pure, unconditional love or neutrality. You become a walking, breathing sanctuary, a mobile, sacred space that purifies its environment simply by existing within it. The implications of this are staggering. The boundaries between the self and the other, between the observer and the observed, begin to dissolve, not just philosophically, but experientially. You perceive the interconnectedness of all things, not as a beautiful idea, but as a fundamental law of the universe. The pain in another is not separate from you. It is a dissonant chord in the one symphony you are both a part of. And by resolving that dissonance within yourself, you help to restore harmony to the whole. This is the awesome responsibility and profound gift of creator consciousness. As you begin to stabilize in the frequency of creator consciousness, the universe starts to communicate with you in a new language. You know, the clumsy, often ambiguous tool of human speech is actually superseded by a far more elegant and precise medium synchronicity. The meaningful coincidences that may have seemed sporadic and delightful in lower tiers now become the primary mode of feedback and guidance from the universe. Life transforms into a constant, flowing dialogue between your inner state and your outer reality. The world becomes your mirror, reflecting your deepest intentions with breathtaking accuracy and speed. You think of an old friend and the phone rings. You ponder a complex problem, and the solution appears as if by magic in the title of a book you happen to glance at. You set a clear intention, and the resources, people, and opportunities required to manifest it begin to arrange themselves around you with an almost intelligent design. This is no longer mere chance, it is the universe responding to the clarity and power of your coherent energetic signal. You have become such a clear channel that the broadcast of your intention is received and answered instantaneously. This constant stream of synchronicity fundamentally alters your decision-making process. You learn to trust the flow of life, to read the signs, to follow the energetic breadcrumbs that the universe lays out for you. The anxious, ego-driven need to plan, to force, and to control every outcome simply falls away. Why would you need to? when you are engaged in a beautiful, effortless dance with a cosmos that is actively conspiring in your favor. You learn to operate from a place of deep trust and surrender, knowing that by holding the right frequency, you will be guided impeccably towards your highest path. But it is essential to understand that this is not a permanent state, especially in the beginning. Tier 5 is a frequency you learn to visit, a state you touch and then return from. The goal is to anchor it more and more deeply, to make it your predominant reality. Each visit refines your being, each synchronicity strengthens your trust. Each act of transmutation expands your capacity. You are a student in the University of the Cosmos, and synchronicity is your curriculum, a living language that teaches you the profound and simple truth. You are not separate from the world you observe. You are its co-creator. The ultimate destination of this journey, the core experience of Tier 5, is the dissolution of the rigid boundaries of the self. The persistent, nagging voice of the ego, the I that feels separate, vulnerable, and alone, fades into a quiet background hum. In its place arises a profound, embodied sense of unity with all of creation. This is not a philosophical belief, but a direct, visceral experience. You look at a tree, a stranger, a star, and you feel with an unshakable certainty that you are looking at another expression of yourself. This experience of transcendent unity is the source of the Creator's power. Because when you are no longer a separate fragment fighting for its own survival, but an integral part of the whole, your intentions are no longer small and personal. They become aligned with the evolutionary impulse of the cosmos itself. Your desire for healing becomes a desire for the healing of the collective. Your desire for abundance becomes a desire for the flourishing of all life. You become a conduit for a will and an intelligence far greater than your own limited personality. This blurring of self and other gives rise to a state of unconditional love and compassion that is almost incomprehensible from the lower tiers. It is a love born not of sentiment or attachment, but of recognition. How can you judge, hate, or fear that which you know to be yourself? All conflict, internal and external, dissolves in the solvent of this unity consciousness. You see the divine spark in every being, no matter how obscured it may be by the veils of fear, trauma, and conditioning. Your presence becomes a silent reminder to others of their own true divine nature. This is the pinnacle of the human journey as we currently understand it, to move from the contracted awareness of survival to the expanded awareness of unity, to realize that you are not a drop in the ocean, but the entire ocean in a drop. Creator consciousness is not about becoming a god. It is about remembering that you are and always have been an inseparable and essential part of the fabric of God, the unified field of consciousness that dreams this entire universe into being. It is the journey home to what you already are. So there you have it. A map of sorts. A guide to the ever-expanding territories of human awareness. But it is crucial to remember this is not a ladder to be climbed, with each rung left definitively behind. The tiers of awareness aren't rigid steps, they're a spiral, a helix of growth. You will revisit old patterns, old territories of fear and reaction, but you will do so from a higher vantage point, armed with more awareness, more tools, and infinitely more grace. The challenges may seem familiar, but you, the one who meets them, are irrevocably changed. With each turn of the spiral, you learn to stabilize these higher states more consistently, to make them your home base rather than a fleeting holiday destination. And as you do, you will find that life, the great mirror, begins to reflect your inner transformation back to you with increasing clarity. The chaos subsides, the synchronicities multiply, and a deep, abiding sense of peace and purpose becomes the very ground upon which you walk. The journey is not about arriving at a final destination, but about the beautiful, ongoing process of becoming. The question, then, is not one of judgment, but of gentle inquiry. Where are you on your journey right now? Which of these energetic landscapes feels most familiar? Which tier do you feel you're exploring at this moment in your life? There is no right or wrong answer, only your truth. I invite you to share your reflections in the comments below. Our collective wisdom enriches us all. And if this exploration has resonated, subscribe for more insights on the fascinating interplay of energy, embodiment, and our shared path of collective healing. The journey is just beginning.